It's Simon Raybold. How you
Hello,
doing,
hello,
mate?
hello. Hi, how you doing?
I am good. I am good. Income is bouncing back. My children will have shoes next year. It's all good. It's all good.
Have you just thought about selling the children and using them to buy the shoes with? It just makes so much more sense. You see, it's a long-term
Well, hang
investment
on.
strategy.
Hang on. Well, obviously, if you didn't have children, you wouldn't need shoes. You just have profit, pure profit.
There you go.
Complicated, I know.
Problem solved.
So, 2020, the year of Zoom, and I must say, towards the end of 2020, I was still seeing some rookie mistakes which should have been eliminated by May. So, wanted to riff, moan, and whinge with you about that.
Quick
Simon,
BMW session. A quick BMW. Bitch, moan, and whinge.
yeah, bitch and stitch. Have you got your knitting? Got your knitting? So,
Yeah, and it's not just Zoom, is it? I mean, it's any online thing that we're talking about here.
yeah,
But Zoom is the most popular, of course. It's the one that everybody is using as a verb. In the same way as you say to Google stuff, we now say to Zoom,
yes,
which actually speaks a great deal about how embedded it's got in our cultural
yes.
gestalt, really, hasn't it?
To tarmac the drive, using Xerox the paper. Oh, no, I've just given my age away.
Yes, to hoover the floor, in fact.
And move on. Yes, exactly. To
Yes.
argue the chips. No, no, it doesn't always work.
What
So
are
when
chips?
so when I say audio crimes, visual crimes, what comes to the top of your mind?
Oh, the number of times I have heard people. I mean, it's got to be the phrase of the year, hasn't it? You're on mute.
Yeah.
And the thing is, quite often when that happens, the people who are talking on mute are too busy talking to look at what's going on and too busy talking to listen to what anybody else is saying to them.
Yes.
So we're all screaming out, "You're on mute!" And they're just not getting it, which actually is not a surprise because one of the ways that things like Zoom or Skype work is if you're talking, it cuts out the audio from the other end. So sometimes they genuinely can't hear us going, "You're on mute." But there's a clue. There's a big red slashy line through your microphone. If the big red slashy line is on, nobody cares how smart you are. Um,
But it's
and I've
almost
found that
that
that.
looking at a cause of that. Have you ever been so stressed you get tunnel vision? I remember
Oh
being
yeah,
late for a plane, and I was literally had tunnel vision as I literally went down the corridor and couldn't see left or right. I guess that's it, isn't it? We're just so focused. Probably we're not using our eyes at all. We're focusing on generating words. So there's a sort of mechanical piece, but also a psychological piece there in terms of
I I
focus.
think that's true, and I also think that I'm getting on my high horse here, but adding technology to something makes it even harder than it is because first off you lose the human interaction up to a point, you lose at least some of the human interaction, but you've now got to do your own stage management.
Very good.
Whereas we are normally used to walking on stage or walking to the front of the boardroom and just talking and everybody can hear us. Well, now we have to remember to switch our microphones on, which is an extra level
Yeah.
of complication. And it turns out that some people just aren't up to that for whatever reason. And I get it, I understand it, but there's no excuse for it in my book because you can practice. It's not bloody difficult because Zoom, for example, allows you to have a meeting of one person. So just create yourself a meeting of one person and just practice, just talk to the microphone, talk to the camera, listen to the
Yeah.
playback of
Good.
it, and
Good. Good.
find out what went wrong.
Yeah.
Learn from your mistakes without an audience because
Yeah.
Zoom
Good.
doesn't care
Good.
whether there's nobody in the room, one person in the room, or the biggest one I've done was a couple of hundred people in the room. Actually, that's not true. It does care if there's a couple of hundred people in the
Yeah.
room because you get all kinds of lag and stuff.
Yeah.
But basically, by and large, Zoom doesn't care that there's nobody else in the room. You're just talking to the microphone and to the camera, and everything else can go hang.
Very good, very good, very good. I must say, I did play that the other way round. There was a conference in Europe, and there were 400 people on this thing, and they said, "Does anyone want to talk?" And I made a fairly cheeky comment, and everyone was muted. And I said, "You can't." That was a funny joke. I mean, you're not laughing, but I guess that's because you're muted, and you get a second free laugh. You can't hear it, of course. You couldn't hear the first one, but it was quite nice to play the silence the other way round.
And isn't that weird as well? You see, you get a little, you get none of the audio feedback that you're used to getting
Yeah.
when you're doing a live gig. And indeed, for some parts of the world where I'm working at the moment, culturally, out of respect, they turn off their video too. So I might be facing 24 little black boxes, some of them with initials in, some of them with hieroglyphics in, some of them with calligraphy writing in. I go, oh, is there anybody there? Am I still broadcasting?
Exactly. It reminds me of my first gig ever. Stormy day, middle of Dublin, very famous company, and I'd a Brit in Dublin, always a bit tricky, and we'd had some issues over the Union Jack. You might imagine some of that. And I went upstairs from giving a gig, getting a bit of rough feedback, going straight upstairs, and my computer decided to update very slowly. So I was basically doing my first webinar ever. This was over a decade ago, blind. And the slide changer was basically over the telephone in New Jersey, USA. And I had to give some subtle hints. So I launched into this high-energy 45-minute piece, my first time ever. And you thought, does it work? Does the technology work? Is anyone listening? Am I going to find out in 45 minutes' time that no one was listening? It was bizarre. And ever since then, I've been less cynical and rude about DJs because they do an extraordinary job. This is what they do.
Yeah, I've done some live interviews recently when I've listened in on the radio, the comm chat of the people that are interviewing me, and I've been listening to what they're saying live on the radio and listening to their feed line from their producers at the same time. And they're having a perfectly sensible, intelligent, mostly, conversation with me, whilst having a separate set of instructions fed to them. It's really quite a skill. But in a sense, the fact that you don't know whether people are listening to you makes the rehearsal thing that I've just done in an empty room all the more valid.
Yes.
Because you're not losing anything by not having that feedback there. You're going to get that's the experience you're going to get in the real gig, so you might as well flipping well practice.
Love it. Now, what do I do? So you don't learn your lines. That doesn't work unless you're a professional. You get some key words, and I find walking up and down and bringing these key words to life without an audience on your own, you're actually loading yourself up, but you're also training yourself up not to get the feedback. So I love live audiences. You love live audiences because it's instantaneous and you can riff and you can interact and you get brownie points for all of that. But also there's a different potential, I think, for just really making it your own. And I think the general tolerance has gone. That we're expecting less from other people. So if you exceed as an amateur next year, then it really counts for double points, double bonus points. So there's an opportunity.
It kind of reminds me of that joke about two people running away from a lion, and one guy says,
exactly.
you're not gonna run faster than a lion. To which the response is, I don't need to be faster than the lion. I just need to be faster than you.
Exactly.
And that's kind of where we are with the online world. You don't need to be brilliant. You just need to be barely adequate, and people think that you're brilliant by comparison.
Barely adequate, human, in the moment. I think if you're present, you get, you're pretty much, you've got a gold star.
Up to a point, because there is that level of so human, so imminent, so where the kids running screaming in the room, and that's perfectly normal. I get that, because if you're a single, you can't, but it does undermine your credibility and your authority and the audience's ability to cope. And so I've got friends of mine whose their pre-Zoom checklist, one of their items there is lock the kittens in the kitchen.
Exactly.
Kudos. That's quite, and frankly, you shouldn't be having kittens anyway. I mean, they're horrible, smelly things. Then certainly they go into cats, and that's even worse. But
have we started talking about children? Not yet.
We're still on the kittens. But the number of times he broadcast, particularly live, when the kittens would come in, everyone would go, "Oh, the kittens! Oh, they're cute!" That's right. Even if he's scoring points for warmth and niceness, he's losing them for content and credibility and authority and getting the message.
He's losing it for transfer, isn't it? Yeah. Now we've got a golden Labrador, not us, but one of our counterparts has got a golden Labrador, and then and then the kids, quite funny, hugely noisy one again. On quite a sophisticated gig. It was 3 children in the background, so lots of jokes about have you tried gaffer tape? Have you tried medicine? A little bit tricky.
I found whiskey works.
Whiskey and hot milk. Works. They'll never know. Bit tricky. Or just the audio visuals. What's the weirdest thing you've seen in the background this year or last year?
Worst thing I've seen in the background. Actually, worst thing I've seen in the background is somebody's notifications popping up on their screen.
Okay, yeah.
which was was very distracting for quite some time until I started to read who the names of the people who were coming online. And they were getting so the point when I lost it and started to giggle was when I quote, "Little Pink Thong has just come online." And at that point, I just started to go, "Sorry, mate, you've completely lost any." Apart from anything else, it's distracting me. But even if it's not your authority for I have no idea what chat room you're in where Little Pink Thong might be of interest.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not somewhere I want to be with you.
No, it's it's a different agenda. Different agenda. You
It's
haven't got
a completely
100%
different agenda.
attention.
Yeah.
Now I saw a real professional ironing board in the back. As I say this, I'm thinking, does this matter? But I think it's your thing. It's a distraction from the brand. Ironing board in the back, massive, whole families ironing on the sofa just next to that. I thought, did you think what impression that might be giving everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's this big thing, isn't there, about whether you want to put books in the background and all of that kind of. So you can see, for example, I've got in my background, I've got my company logo on the wall, I've got a microphone in midair, and I've got a plant. The plant is very carefully positioned so that it doesn't grow out of the top of my head.
Yes.
But the number of people I have seen who've got shed loads of plants and interesting things in the background, and then books, and you start trying to go, well, what have they got my book on that bookshelf?
No, exactly. Or I've often been asked, what's your favourite one? Of course, and then you happen to go, well, I did write this one, so you get a score. But yeah, it's there. All right, mate, that's probably enough for this one. You are a superstar. Let's wish everyone an amazing 2021. Thanks for your effort.
Heavens, yes. To be fair, just like we said before, you don't have to be great. You just have to be better than the last guy. 21 doesn't have to be great, does it? It just has to be not pants, and it will feel a lot better than this year.
Not pants, which, of course, is the national uniform of Zoomers. All right, people. Indeed. Thanks for your loyalty. We'll see you soon. Here we go.
Take care. Have fun.